So it's one of the most humiliating defeats of the season for any team, but for a team like Chelsea, with the squad that they've assembled over the years, this was a massive surprise as Man City won 6-0 against Chelsea. Chelsea the last two games losing 4-0 away from home and now 6-0 away from home. What is going on at Chelsea Football Club? What's going on with Sarri? And like the previous managers that have had a tricky time at this part of the year, is this going to be the start of the end for Sarri? Let's have a chat with Nini FC, who joins me now for his debut on Ball Street. Hello, mate. How you doing?
Hi, man. Thanks for having me on.
So many questions when it comes to Chelsea. Not just the result, but I think the whole scenario of Chelsea Football Club and how they've been run and where they are at this moment in time. No doubt the success of Chelsea has been incredible. But Let's start with the game and then we'll open up from there. But what went wrong yesterday in that game?
I think because obviously I've watched the game again twice now, so a lot of things stood out for me. But I think the clearest indicator for what went wrong was the individual mistakes. I mean, the first 20 minutes conceding 3 goals, 2 mistakes coming from errors from, set piece defending and Ross Barkley with this poor header and a wonder goal from Aguero. I mean, the game's over after that, effectively.
Yeah. And when you were watching it, obviously that's not something that Chelsea do. That Chelsea don't concede those kind of goals. They've been renowned for having such a great defence for such a long time. But I've watched it, on the kickoff with Brian and the guys. We've watched a few of Chelsea's big games this year, and I could kind of see this one coming. It felt like the Arsenal game was very easy for Arsenal. They were able to press Chelsea, and Chelsea didn't seem to be able to deal with that. They had moments where they had a lot of possession. They are a possession-based team, Chelsea, more so than ever under Sarri. But in that Arsenal game, in that Spurs game earlier in the season, and now in this Man City game, when it comes to playing those other top sides, you've really been found wanting. What do you think the main reason for that is?
I think obviously, you have to remember in the Premier League now, there's a lot of fantastic managers at the moment. There's never been a time where there's been so many successful managers in one period. So naturally, teams are finding out how to stop opposition teams quite easily and quicker these days. And I think that with teams now, they've understood that we're a team that don't really score enough goals. And teams now want us to have the ball out wide because, our wide play combinations aren't good enough. With our fullbacks, I'm going to sound really harsh, but one thing that's always really frustrated me with Chelsea is the fact that, we've tried to adapt our style to be more, to play silkier stuff, more attractive football. We had guys like Villas-Boas and Scolari and Sarri now. But every single time, you haven't fully embraced this new style. And I'm just saying, you can't play Sarri ball with a squad that isn't really suited to this style of football. And I think the fullbacks really highlight this weakness. Both fullbacks aren't press resistant. They're very one-dimensional. I mean, Aspie constantly hitting the first man with his poor crosses. Alonso with the worst cross completion rate in the country. Aspie yesterday, watching the game again, I didn't realise just how poor he was, but it was his poorest game ever in a Chelsea shirt.
I think that's a great point because Alonso as well, I was blown away with it. I think he was going to be a key player in that game because you knew that they would look to put pressure on both those fullbacks. But Alonso in particular because he can be a real attacking threat for Chelsea. But
his attacking threat is kind of weird though. Sorry to interrupt, but his attacking threat's kind of weird because, I've always been saying for a while, he kind of plays for himself. He's always making these infield runs in the box. Well, naturally, if you do that time and time again, you are going to get opportunities to score. Right. But I'm just thinking about the greater balance with the team. How does that really help anyone? All you're doing is forcing Hazard out wide, but you can't affect the game centrally. I mean, look at someone like Sterling. Constantly has an outlet all the time where he can make runs inside or make runs in behind, etc., etc. Our attacking players don't really have that. I'm just thinking, if you're playing possession football, ideally, you want all 10 of your players to be very comfortable on the ball and be good at this football. But I'm looking at our team. I'm thinking Aspie and Alonso, not really suited for this style of football. I'm looking at Pedro. I think that this guy's in decline. I think that he can't run as hard anymore. Constantly gives the ball away easily. Willian as well. He's taken at least double or triple the amount of shots to score a goal, I looked at previous seasons with Pedro and Willian. There was a moment in the Man City game where Higuain played the backheel pass to Pedro. Now, if this was the old one, he would have definitely scored that.
That's such a crucial moment in the game, wasn't it? He has to finish that chance.
Exactly. The entire context of the game is different after that moment. But then, this is what I've been saying for a while now, for the past few years, is that we're a team that don't score enough goals. Yeah. Imagine you're someone like an Eden Hazard, Naturally, we're all human. You're going to get frustrated if you're playing alongside people where they're not making the right combinations. I mean, how many times do you ever see a 1-2 getting played with Alonso and Hazard that is successful? I mean, it rarely ever happens. Right. And it's just like Barkley as well. I feel sorry for the guy. I mean, it's not played for an entire year, but he's not the same Ross Barkley he used to be. He needs a lot of space to play in. And we're playing against teams that are going to press us and close us down. You need your number 8 in a Sarri system to do a lot more. And he doesn't provide that. And I just think there's so many players in this team that can't really offer what we need. And this is why we're going to get inconsistencies.
Yeah, so it's interesting you say that, because I think, obviously, when these kind of results happen, you look at scapegoats. Like, who's it going to be? Is it going to be the players, or is it going to be the board, or is it going to be the manager? Sarri's obviously an easy target for all of this. I'll give my opinion on it, and then let me know what you think, see if you agree. Okay. Because I think, actually, Man City is an interesting team for this to have happened against, because a lot of people are talking about the Everton game 2 seasons ago against Man City, where a lot of people are going, look, this is a mess. Man City's a mess. Guardiola's being found out. But in truth, Guardiola had a team, and actually fullbacks as well, people like Zabaleta, who weren't up to the task of what he wanted to do to create the system that he wanted to play. Yeah. And I think that's a very fair point with Sarri. The one thing I would say is that you've got to understand, if it isn't working, you've got to be able to tweak it. And that's the thing that I've been amazed by with Sarri, that he is so stubborn in not just the way that he sets out the team, but even the substitutions, the lack of you have a lot of squad depth. And he doesn't seem to bring through these young players or use them. And so with all that in mind, I'm kind of on the fence with this guy. I don't really understand if he is the right guy for the job, because even Guardiola has adapted his style a tiny bit just to get the job done in the Premier League, because the Premier League is not like any other league in the world. Where do you sit on Sarri and Sarri ball?
I mean, this is like the most interesting debate right now, I think, when it comes to Sarri and Chelsea right now. Believing in Sarri ball, I do, because I think that there's a lot of promise so far. I'm seeing that when we play out from the back, it works. The circulations of possession out from the back, Jorginho, everything's in tandem, but it's translating all of that build up into end products, which we just don't have. And I think, once the fullbacks cross the halfway line, they kind of fold and they don't do anything.
Do you think you need to play differently against those bigger sides, those top teams, where you can't dominate as much?
I mean, this is the thing, though. Like I was saying earlier about this being like a big debate with Chelsea fans. Obviously, with Sarri, you're kind of signing this guy for his Sarri ball, for his philosophy on the game. So I can understand why Sarri's going to be like, oh no, I know the system works. I had fantastic spells with Napoli where we really pushed Juventus really hard. This works, but the execution isn't there. I need some more support. Now, I think Sarri can help things. Start using Ruben, start using Emerson's, Hudson-Odoi's. I'm sorry. Pedro and Willian are on the decline. They're not going to improve. They're not going to get better. Stop relying on that. Alonso as well. He's not good enough. He hasn't been good enough for a long time. Ross Barkley isn't used to this. He's not ready for this football. Quava doesn't provide anything in the final third. Use the players we have. Now, just so I can say one thing quickly, a lot of fans want to see that type of lineup, Emerson, Ruben and Hazard down the left. But one thing I feel a lot of fans don't really take into consideration is the fact that, obviously, managers always consider how teams are going to keep their structure off the ball. With us now, with Sarri, we're a pressing team, meaning that we have to win the ball in the opponent's half. So Sarri has to consider, I need to pick players that can obviously press, because the minute people aren't running or getting in position, it's literally 3-4 passes from the opposition, and then you're through on goal. That's how thin the line is. And I just think that a lot of the players in this team can't do it. I mean, Hazard, his work rate isn't good enough. Willian, Pedro, not good enough. I mean, your entire forward players can't close down people with intensity. what's going to happen then? You know? So
it totally goes against what he's trying to achieve there, doesn't it? And it's quite interesting how Conte was kind of saying the same kind of thing. He needed to change a lot of the squad. People were going, "Oh no, hang on a minute, you've got a good squad there." And look, let's look at the table. It's not all's lost. Yeah, you're sixth, you're on a bad run, but you're still in the hunt for it. So there are elements of the way that you play the game and also the players that you've got in the squad that are good. I wanted to ask you this: do you think an element of the not using Ruben Loftus-Cheek or the youth players that have been so impressive for Chelsea Football Club, do you think the hesitancy to use them is because of this kind of this ruthless nature that has been around Chelsea since Abramovich has come in, that sort of short-termism of, right, you better be winning the title, and if you're not, then you're going to be out the door? And is that maybe catching up with Chelsea a little bit? Do they need to be a bit more, have more of a long-term view and be able to bring these players through? Because you look at Spurs, you look at even Man United with how they're kind of moving it again back to these young players and bringing them through. That has never happened at Chelsea. And are you missing a trick there?
No, 1,000%. I mean, I think one thing that really sums up Chelsea is the fact that we're a very inefficient club. I mean, for example, we've got this potential transfer ban coming, and it's just like we're getting that because, we're signing youth players, and it's like, well, we don't have any idea on how to actually introduce them into the first team. You don't want to do that. So imagine getting a potential ban when you don't even like using youth players in the first team. It's too bipolar for me. And I'm just thinking, enough's enough. Honestly, if I'm Sarri, I'm going to be brave. Introduce the young guys, because the benefits are, of course, they'll understand the system better. They'll improve over time. And by the time next season comes, hopefully, their tactical understanding is much better. But again, it comes down to the board and fans. Could fans accept that and be happy with potentially missing out on the Champions League? Because that could be a reality, I don't think people want that. I'm just thinking that Sarri's situation.
As someone who knows the Chelsea fan base, how do you think they would react to that if you did start to bring in these players, but it didn't work, but the results weren't better?
I mean, I think quite a few would understand, because, I think a lot of fans want some long-term sustainability. That's one of the reasons why I'm a massive advocate for Sarri, because, let's be serious, he's not going to be here forever. I know that. But he introduces the foundation. So let's say, for example, Frank Lampard takes over. His job's much easier now because the team is much more tailored around that style of football. So, I mean, Sarri had a lot on his plate. You're coming to a squad where a lot of the players don't suit the system. You're on a tightrope. So it's like, in a way, sometimes I feel like he's forced to have to use them just to keep the squad together. But now, after losing 6-0 to Man City, our biggest loss in 28 years, if there was ever a time to do something different, now's the time now. Okay.
Do you think he will?
I think so. I think when I'm seeing Alonso getting subbed off, Ruben coming on, I think Malmo will be a big test, But again, there's also so much context all the time. I mean, we're playing Malmo this week, so I can understand that Sarri's thinking, I need players ready for that game, because after Malmo, then we've got another game on the weekend, So it's hard being a manager. Now, it sounds like I'm making a lot of excuses. To keep it simple, if Sarri makes the right changes, that'll make things better. But fans, then, if you want to see that, accept that there's a possibility we might not get Champions League this year, but we'll see benefits going on in the future if we use these younger guys.
Right. Let us know your thoughts on the Chelsea situation. Are you a believer in Sarri? Do you think he's got the tools to get the job done there? And do you think he'll get the time to implement what he really wants to do at Chelsea Football Club? Nini FC, where can they find you, my friend?
If you guys want to find me, my YouTube channel is Blue Lines TV. It's a Chelsea fan channel. I talk about news, discussion points, reviews, tactics, all that stuff. So if you like that, go to Blue Lines TV.
Absolutely. If you enjoyed this video, then why not hit that like button? As I say, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to Ball Street, and we'll see you very soon.